wrap this up. I'm Stu Comstock. I'm with the Program Review Division here at MDE's Sediment Stormwater Dam Safety Program, and I get the wonderful job of wrapping things up today. So as we get started this last final session, I want to ask our moderators if we have a couple of minutes, if there are any questions that were left unanswered that we want to revisit.
Yes, we do. We have several questions. Should I just ask a few of them?
Yes, just ask a couple of them.
So the first question I see, are there any dams impacted by sea level rise, land subsidence, or saltwater intrusion? That was a question for John Roche.
That's a great
John?
question. Yeah, thanks for asking that.
Take a stab at that one.
Yep. You hear me right?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, it's a good question. And the answer is we don't know. Although kind of as everybody does when you're multitasking on presentations, I ask the question and I think we're going to start looking into that. So thanks for the great idea. Once we find out if they're impacted, then the question is, what do we do about it? But let's get the inventory straightened out first, and then we'll find out.
Thank you. Michelle?
Okay, one more question is, what leverage does the local jurisdiction or MDE have against the landowner who fails to perform the required maintenance, such as tree removal?
All right. Leverages that the local jurisdictions have is potentially dependent on local laws and regulations. Environment Article 5-509, that's state law, enables MDE to, and I'll let you read it because I'm very much paraphrasing here and shortening it, allows us to notify the owner if there's a problem with the dam, request that it be corrected or that the dam be removed, and then a, admittedly very lengthy legal process can ensue if somebody does not comply with these dam safety requirements. The legal process is lengthy because we have to protect our citizens from, overreach from the government, and I suppose that's reasonable. But what it does mean is that it's better to, create compliance and relationships with dam and pond owners so that they trust us and they do what we ask them to do without having to go through those legal means. But again, that's Environment Article 5-509 if you want to read all of the capabilities that MDE has.
And I will add to that, John, the COMAR 26.17.02, and I believe it's 11, provides maintenance inspection requirements for the local jurisdictions and also discusses compliance issues. I won't go through them right now, but you can check into that and it should provide your local ability within that section of COMAR. Any other questions, Michelle?
There's a quick question about the small pond work group interest form. Are we able to access it if we don't have a Google account, or is there another way of sharing it with the folks?
Yeah, I thought it was set up so that it didn't require a Google account. So if you've tested it and that proves false, I apologize. But please just email me and we'll discuss it separately, and I'll kind of record your information for you. So that way it's now I'm keeping it all in the same space. But we'll get that handled out if you reach out to me directly. And if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in because a question was posed to me privately or a follow-on regarding the critical area. So I'm just going to mention it here. And it was about, should the inspectors or whoever has authority reach out to Critical Area Commission prior to instructing the dam owner to remove the woody vegetation. So again, I would state that we have two regulatory priorities that may be in contradiction. I would not defer unnecessarily to either one of them. So I guess what I'm saying is, no, absolutely tell the dam owner that they need to remove the vegetation. and concurrently coordinate with critical areas to let them know why it's necessary and try to, alleviate the pain of any compensatory mitigation that's required. But, definitely, make the ask to bring the dam into compliance. Don't wait for critical area to give you the thumbs up on that. And I will mention, somebody asked about dredge material sites. We do review some of them if they have a landward failure, and we have them on our inventory, but not all of them. Part of that stems from many of them are Army Corps owned, and particularly Philadelphia district of the Army Corps. And though we don't agree with it, they very strongly have the opinion that they do not fall within our jurisdiction because they are federally owned and regulated. So yeah, there's some of them we'd like to get more bites at the apple, but we do kind of have an awareness of where they are and what condition they're in.
Thank you, John. Anything else, Michelle? Is that it?
There is one more question. Is
Okay.
it possible for MDE to fund a position here at MDE to be the sole contact or advisor to educate local SCDs, to assist with policy development or answer review questions or assisting with outreach and education to our communities?
I don't quite know how we want to answer that one. Let us think about that.
I mean, I would say, Stu, though, I don't know how we answer it from a funding perspective. And it probably is, more than one position potentially. But always reach out to us if there's questions or anything like that. It may not be something we can jump on that day, but technical questions, outreach, we might already have things that are canned or ready to go to help you.
Okay.
Place that burden on us and we'll try to help solve it for you.
Yes. Always give us a call. I'm not quite sure about a position. Thank you, John.
Stu, I received one comment privately that I'd like to just touch on, and maybe if it's
Okay.
not clear, maybe Hal or John could jump in. But Warren
Let's-
Johnson with NRCS sent me a note clarifying, and if it wasn't clear in my presentation, any review done by NRCS or its partners at the SCD must follow the 378 breach guidance. The MDE guidance is kind of what you would go to if you exceed the 1.5 feet of depth over a road, or for some reason it's a use 3 pond that needs to be reviewed by the Dam Safety Division. But in order for them to approve it, they need to use the MD Pond Code 378 breach method.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on. We had some questions for you last time, and I won't go through each of these questions right now. I've got 2 slides worth. I'm just going to throw them out there. We will be sending you all of these questions after the 3rd session with the package of material that will go out or as a separate survey. We're still working the details out, but we did have some questions for you last time. And wait, we've got some questions for you this time. These are questions that were brought up by the various presenters throughout the presentations today that just following up that we'd like your input on. No, I'm not going to play my tuba. First of all, I think Ray asked if you have a watershed map showing where quantity management, e.g. 10-year or 100-year, is required within your jurisdiction. We are working on developing a statewide map, and we would love to include the most up-to-date info on that. Does your inspection staff get routine training in confined space entry, fall protection, or other safety concerns? We have found that this is very critical when we're visiting sites doing inspections, and without the proper safety training, it is important to know when you need to walk away from something so you don't put yourself in an unsafe position. A very good question is, what should we do to resolve inconsistencies between local and state requirements? We'd be interested in hearing your suggestions on some of those. Amanda asked a very good question, and I paraphrase it here. With climate change and the increase of short duration, high intensity storms, is 3,600 cubic feet per acre still an appropriate design criteria for a sediment trap or basin? That's an older design criteria, and like many older criteria, maybe it's worth revisiting. Along with that, Are downstream flooding and channel erosion downstream flooding and channel erosion problems, are they concerns during construction? And if they are, what should you be using for the criteria for the design? What does your jurisdiction do to prevent sediment basins that should be designed and constructed in accordance with MD 378, but are not constructed in accordance with MD 378? How do you prevent them from becoming permanent practices? And the last question I'll remain unread is one I like to throw in there just to see if anybody's still paying attention. So again, thank you for listening with us today and giving us some good feedback. What are the next steps in this what's in your pond process? As we discussed earlier on, we are using the What's in Your Pond webinars as a triennial review of stormwater management programs statewide. It's not a one and done. It's a multi-year effort to look at Maryland's dam safety and stormwater management programs. And it's also an exchange of information ideas with each of you. So if you have not completed the survey that was sent out separately, and I believe we had the link posted earlier, please do so. It is important that we hear from you on these programs. I want to touch count on the stormwater triennial review. At last count, and I made this count this morning, we have 15 counties in Baltimore City that have registered for these webinars. We have 15 counties, including the city, that have responded to the survey. We are going to continue to reach out to those missing jurisdictions. And if you know someone who should be here but isn't, we still have one more webinar. Or if they did not receive the survey, please let us know in the chat box now or by emailing me. And here's my email address if you don't already have it. But then again, if you really want us to come and visit you, we can work that out too. The next webinar is scheduled for November 18th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and it's issues and some solutions. Please understand, and I cannot say this too many times, your participation in this process is critical. It is very important to us. This is our forum, and by our, I don't mean MDE, I mean the community at large, for discussing trends, common issues, and new concerns. And we are going to make every effort to involve as many of you as we can in an open process. One of the most common comments on the surveys to date has been the need for better communication and to provide training and outreach with respect to not only dam safety issues, but stormwater management and sediment erosion control in general. And we hear you. So again, we will try to work on addressing some of these areas, but we are also trying to provide an opportunity for you to participate in the development of the next generation dam safety and stormwater management programs. So again, I like to say that the last program was initiated in 2000. It is now 2020. If you look at the time frame for developing a program, we're looking at, at the earliest, something around 2025. That's a quarter of a century. It's time. So if you haven't signed up for the next seminar, please do so. I also want to admit that we are listening to you, not only generally, but throughout this process of these webinars. We have heard a number of questions and concerns about construction issues and maintenance issues. And so the agenda for the next webinar in November is being modified to address these issues. We will be sending an updated agenda after this session, most likely in the next week or so, that will reflect the new topics for November 18th. Few items in closing. The link to your certificate has been posted in the chat box. You have to both be registered and here for the entire program to get your CEUs for today. This link will be open past the end of the program for about 15 minutes or so. Oops, sorry. The link will take you to an evaluation of this session, and once you've completed the evaluation, then you will receive an email with your certificate. I'm sorry, you got to do the evaluation. Certificates will not be made available after today's session, so if you don't get to it today, I'm sorry, MSET is not able to do that later. I know that earlier in the process we had said that we would be getting copies of the different presentations to you after each webinar. Something outside of our control has caused us to change that. We have to get our presentations approved before we can publish them. As soon as we can, we're looking at doing that after all 3 webinars as one big outreach. Again, link to your certificate is now available in the chat box. With that, I would like to ask if there are any last-minute questions. We have a few minutes to take a couple questions. Moderator?
There is one question from earlier that I missed. It's an important one. Someone pointed out that there is an equity aspect to flooding, that it impacts poorer neighbors more. And this person pointed out that quantity control requirements are handled differently for each jurisdiction. So asking, will there be a focus on this in the future?
It's a good question. I'm not quite sure how to answer that because it touches on many subjects. One is climate change, and we're still trying to figure out exactly what that means for stormwater management in general. But I will tell you that the social equity is an issue that we are trying to also consider when we address stormwater management requirements. And moving forward, it will become something more prevalent in the decision-making process. Anybody else want to chime in on that one? Any other questions?
None that I see.
Well, barring any additional questions, it is actually noon. The timing is spot on today. Thank you. Again, I want to thank each and every one of you who participated today for sitting with us today talking about dam safety, sediment erosion control, and stormwater management issues that are important to us. I encourage you to continue this process. We have tried to provide forums for you to talk to us and communicate openly. Please show up on November 18th. If you know someone who's not here, get them here. If you are part of the County Engineers Associated meeting that I understand might be going on the same day and you want to send a surrogate, please let us know that it's important that you're here. Finally, and I think I speak for everyone at MDE, thank you for being here, and a big thank you to Karen and Tara and the staff at MSET. We could not have done this without them, without their patience and their prodding and their prompting to get this done. And they're letting us spend a lot of time rehearsing. So again, thank you guys. And thank you to each of our speakers today. I thought everyone did a great job. If there are no other questions or comments, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you.